are you doing? I hope you are doing well. Thank you for your patience as I was fighting different pieces, all of the different things that we might have going on, because it always happens when you try something new. There are always hiccups and bumps along the way as you are working through and all of those things. Isn't that just such a great, wonderful example of what we do in our field of education and all of those different pieces? So I am Kristen. It is wonderful to be here live now that we're finally coming through, and it is all the things. So this is our kickoff for something new that we're trying this year, which is an Ask Me Anything. So each month we do our free data strategy share outs where we talk about different things that students, K through 12 students, but mostly sort of upper elementary, middle school, and high school students struggle with. What are aspects of working with data that they get kind of hung up on, and how can we unpack that, and what are some strategies that we can use in our classrooms to help them make better sense of data? Strategies we all can use, regardless of what curriculum we're using, regardless of what tools or platforms we might have this year as opposed to last year, or maybe next year coming down the pike. So what are strategies? What are things that we can try? But this month, we took a little bit of a sidestep from thinking about what are skills and strategies we can use in our classrooms with our learners to explore and dig into what are some strategies that we can use when we are looking at our students' assessment data. It is that time of year where we often get our results back from our state assessments, and for our students, and thinking of like, okay, so what does this mean and what can we do from it? So last week at our share out, we were thinking about our students have two stories and ways that we can visualize that assessment data as it is coming through and as we are working with it. How can we make sense of it and process it? So those that were with us, we talked through different aspects of working with the assessment data, our students' assessment data, and we were really coming at it from this perspective of we're trying to interpret data to learn something, right? We are trying to make sense of, tell stories about our students, and by tell stories, I mean like, what can we gather? What can we infer? What can we use from this assessment data to inform our next steps and our practices? So that's where we're trying to go. We're trying to get to that, interpret the assessment data to learn something about our students, about our school, about our team, about choices we can make, decisions that we can make going forward. But there are a lot of different pieces that factor in and that build into enabling us to interpret the data to do something with it. And we were talking about thinking about what kind of questions we're asking, thinking about how we're visualizing our data from our students, and how we're really digging in and describing, analyzing those patterns, or really making those patterns visible for those that we're sharing the data with. So we were going through 3 different strategies to visualize your data in ways that help you explore the question you want to ask from your assessment data, how to leverage annotations and highlighting once you've been in the data and you've explored it for your question and you want to share that story out, that story about your students. How can we really kind of leverage annotations and highlighting to draw the eye of the reader or the audience with whom we are telling that story, and why that works, like why that works for our eyes and why we should leverage it with all of our storytelling. And then finally, different ways to vary how we're engaging with our assessment data. How are we visualizing it? How are we looking at it, creating it, presenting it to other people in those visual formats? Because those of us that are visually able spend a lot of time working with data, and we can process that information much faster when we visualize it. So those were the strategies that we were sharing, that we were talking about last week as we were in our strategy share out, and we've made that video recording available to everybody. So let me just, let's see here, I can screen share and I can show you where on the channel that you can find this so that we can all find all these things, because do this every month. Last week we kicked off the 2025-2026 school year, and so you can jump in here to our videos, and right here, from scores to stories, visualizing state assessment data for action is that story that you can find. And if I can get my computer to play well with me and my mouse to play well with me, let's see, I can put that link directly, and I can put it in the chat for all of us so that we can all access last week's strategy share out around those different strategies that I was just talking about, in terms of how we make sense of our student assessment data and different pieces like that. So every month we have these strategy share outs. We go through a couple different strategies, we dig into it, we explore it a little bit further and think about, well, why would that be helpful, and what are we struggling with, and how that could move forward. And then we're trying this new thing where we're jumping in the following week and having a Ask Me Anything. So what questions do you have about visualizing your student assessment data? How can we help? What questions can we answer? Different things like that. Because an important part of working together as a team is, yes, sharing out these strategies to help us reinvent the wheel, to help us not have to feel like we're building the plane as we're going down the runway. How many more metaphors can we use to the fact that, like, in the education field, we often live in silos. Silos of our classroom, silos of our department, silos of our school, of our building, of our district, when really we're all after the same thing, and many of us are doing very similar things as we are working through. So a big thing is that here at DataSpire, we're trying to share out these strategies to make things easier, and we're also trying to answer questions and make life easier for you as you are going through, as you're doing your work. If you have a question as it relates to working with data, making sense of data, asking those questions, visualizing the data, we would love to be a resource and a support for you as you are going through. Both in the, I just got a PDF from my Department of Ed, or from my school board, and what do I do with it? How do I tell that story? How do I make sense of it? How do we think of ourselves as storytellers to work to see the insights that we can glean from the data, remembering our state assessment data is just one of many pieces of information that we have about our students. And so we want to pull that together when we're telling a holistic story of our students, of our school, of our district. We don't just want to rely on any one set of numbers, and yet numbers are important too. They are an important component, but not the whole thing of that story that we're telling. But we need to think of ourselves as those storytellers. The data aren't going to tell the story of our students, our school, our district. We are the storytellers. So we need to get into those data, and we need to sort of search for the insights, identify what stories we want to tell, surface the trends, or identify, find those trends so that we can surface them up and share them with others, and be able to really talk meaningfully about our students, about our school, about our district. That, and giving us an opportunity to share out and communicate and together collectively make decisions, is really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do with our assessment data and multiple different pieces of data. We are trying to collect lots of information about this nuanced life in the gray, right? It's not black and white. Like, we all live in this nuanced world of all of these different components, and there's so many different things that are factoring into any one student, let alone all of our students within our building or in our district or in our state. And how do we think about that and pull that together from the student perspective, from the school, and from the district's perspective? So if you've got questions, send them to us. We've got wait here, let me go back and share this with you. let's see if I can, just working on all of the technology all at once. Y'all are so patient with me as we are kicking off this new op. You can join us live once a month for our Ask Me Anythings and put a question in the comments in the YouTube. Send them to us. We're happy to answer them, happy to explore and engage in whatever questions that you might have. Also, happy to say, maybe this doesn't work and you're not here at this moment in dun, 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 dun. You can also submit questions to us at dataspire.tiny.us/ask-us, where we are happy to field your questions and support you. Questions from, how do I make this visualization? What should I, how should I be looking at the data? How can I best visualize this for the question that I have? How can I make sense of what's going on in the data? How do I help my students work with this? I need a data set to help me do this lesson. All the different things. Send us a question at Ask Us. Here, I'll put this in the comments as well so that you can ask us questions as you are going through. If you've got questions as they come up, different pieces. On these monthly, our strategy share out. So next month is in October. It will be October 14th. We're going to be diving into, so moving a little bit away from us as adults looking at our assessment data into, okay, no, but how do we actually help our students? And specifically, how do we help them move beyond those bar charts? Because I can tell you, I walk into rooms all over the country and I ask teachers of all different student ages, and it goes about like it did in my classroom, my undergrads or my middle school students, of a, wait, what? How do they know what graph type to make? What kind of graphs are they making? Oh, often we have to tell them what graph type to make, and more often than not, even if we tell them something else, they still make bar charts. So we're going to be diving into that next month, October 14th. Feel free to join us. We would love to see you there. I will put the link for the registration in the comments as well, where we're going to dig into beyond just bar charts, helping students make smart visualization choices as they go through and all of those pieces. So really reach out if you have questions now. You can drop them in the chat. Otherwise, send us questions at this Ask Us link, at this Ask Us form. Reach out. Really what I'm just saying is, please don't feel like you need to do it alone. All of us are in this boat, helping our students make sense of data, identify good claims for data, identify what data sets to use and how to visualize those data, how to draw conclusions from those data, how to make inferences from the data, how to identify and evaluate claims that others are making from data. And think about that, really build that sort of broad foundational data literacy, as well as that critical data literacy piece to help all of our students be successful in the 21st century, when we so often are confronted with data visualizations, claims from data, references to statistics, things like that. Just as a little reminder, our data are numbers, but they are also words and categories and images and all of those things. This doesn't fall into any one subject area in K-12. This is not only on our math colleagues to handle. It also does not fall into any 1 year of schooling for our students. This is not a like, well, I do it in 7th grade and then I'm done. And it cannot be done in any one lesson or one unit. This is all of us together supporting our students: science, social studies, math, computer science, English language arts. How do we help prepare our students for the 21st century to be good citizens, to read their electricity bills, to understand our election maps, to understand polling, all of those different pieces, and workforce readiness preparedness? And the way that we feel at DataSpire that we get there is by exposure and practice and integrating it into what we're already doing across our subject areas, across our grade levels, in strategic ways. So join us next month on October 14th for our next free data strategy share out, where we're going to be diving into how do we help our students make sense of data, and specifically, how do we help our students visualize data beyond bar charts and all of those things. Until then, Stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll see you then. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.